Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 85 today for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and this is our Season 5 title decider. If you guys did miss the previous episode at the Brazilian Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. A difficult sprint round, and then even more so in the race as Leclerc, the nearest man to us in the championship, collided with us and took out part of our front wing in a bid to maybe try and keep the title alive and going, and it has kept on going till this round now, where I can win the Drivers' World Championship as long as we finish no lower than 7th place. And considering every single race in this season that we have managed to finish, you know, with engine failures and punches, etc., taking us out twice, all those other races we finished no lower than 5th place. So I think it's safe to say we very much got one hand on the Drivers' Championship trophy already, and it's been due to some scintillating form this season with 6 race wins across the season, the most wins I've had in a single season on this game. There have been wins for Charles Leclerc and Felipe Drugovich, and of course, if you remember all the way back to the start of the season, Sebastian Vettel, the reigning 6-time world champion, kicked things off with a race win, and there's even been a shock win for Jenson Button, who came out of retirement for one race at the British Grand Prix. But most of this season, it has been all about us. And for the first time, I feel super confident we are going to be able to get this across the line finally and get our very first Drivers' Championship on this game. And what a place to do it. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix in the game, Jeddah, has been one of my favourite races in my team career mode, because with the game's level of slipstreaming, the AI aggression, just some of the racing you can have in the game, it is, yeah, it's a really fun circuit, and why we've chosen it to be the second last race of the season rather at the start, because I feel like a track that has this much chaos and this much action deserves to be towards the end of the season. So we're getting straight into the qualifying action. Q1, a formality for myself and Yuki Tsunoda, and as per usual in the last couple of rounds, stiff competition though from the Ferraris, Repsol, Haas, the Mercedes, but Aston Martin look pretty handy there with both their drivers in the top 10, but can they actually convert it into a top 10 when it matters in the next session in Q2? Now obviously with the objective of finishing no lower than 7th place, we could play this with a bit of a tactical mind, you know, in terms of the whole race weekend, you know, kind of Alan Prost vibes, the professor known for kind of calculating what he needed to do and just settling for that and not needing to risk it. But to be honest, this season, I think the reason why we're in a position we are in is because we've strived to go for the maximum in every single session we could. We've taken probably the most strategy gambles we have ever this season, and a lot of them have actually paid out, and we've had that level of consistency, of course, with race finishes that I want to see out this season in the right way. So we're showing that pace in Q2, top of the session, very close stuff though to Verstappen, both Ferraris through, only one Aston Martin made it in, with both Mercs, Haas, Tsunoda in there, which is important because there is still a constructors fight to go. And as we're finishing our first flying lap in Q3, Tsunoda actually goes purple. So is he turning up at the right time? We're trailing Mercedes in the constructors standing, so that fight will probably go to the final race at Abu Dhabi. We go fastest now, but I suspect, like myself, everyone has set that first lap on a scrub set of softs, because we only have 3 to use over the Saturday. So this set I've just done that first lap on is actually the set I used in Q1. Schumacher now goes quicker, so I think for everyone, but especially me included, there will be more pace to find on the second run. So here we are then, going on to that second run, and as I was actually saying, sorry, before I was interrupted by Tsunoda going quickest and taking him off onto a tangent there about the constructors, I wanted to say that I want to try and bring out the season in the right way. We've aimed for the highest possible position in every race, and we've really gone for it. We've had that consistency, so if we can, I would be delighted if we could try and round out this Drivers' Championship with a win here at Jeddah. But the first half of that is doing the job in qualifying across the line about just under half a second gained on that second flying lap. That gets us up to third place. Unfortunately, not on the front row and actually behind Leclerc as he pulls up his socks at the right time for him to get on the front row alongside Max Verstappen. But Verstappen with some blistering pace, 2.3 tenths ahead of Leclerc for pole position. But Tsunoda's managed to get ahead of Russell on the grid, so that's great stuff for the team in the Constructors' Championship. And of course, I'll be trying to overtake both the cars ahead of us to try and go for that win. Here we go then to Sunday, where the title is very much almost in our hands.
So here we are then, welcoming you today to one of the jewels of the Arab world, Jeddah. One of the biggest cities in Saudi Arabia, second only to Riyadh, gateway to Mecca, and one of the biggest ports in the region. And now, host to the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah street circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position and the owner driver alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Bottas, Drugovich, Yuki Tsunoda and Mick Schumacher, Russell, Stroll, Sainz and Max Verstappen. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Norris, Vettel, Nico Hülkenberg and Magnussen, Gasly, Ocon, Sergio Perez and Fernando Alonso, Ricciardo, Oscar Piastri, Albon, they've taken a grid penalty, and Liam Lawson. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
So Max Verstappen has a grid penalty, so very nicely I am elevated onto the front row. Leclerc now has pole position, but in a very neat way, the top two drivers in this championship share the first row. And this sets up a very interesting opening part of this race where we can go toe-to-toe with Leclerc for the race lead and, well, I'm hoping eventually go on to maybe go for the race win. It'd be really awesome to round out the championship fight with another win. That would take us to 7 wins in the season in total, which is of course my race number, my lucky number, so that would be really fitting. But of course it's going to be tough. Slipstreaming is so powerful around here, so when you get ahead, you know, almost immediately you'll be on the back foot because the guy chasing with DRS will have such an advantage down the many straights with DRS here on this circuit in the last sector especially. But we line up our car tilted towards the right-hand side of the grid as we try and aim to get across to squeeze Leclerc maybe towards turn one, because I'm sure he'll do the same. But this is it then. This could be the race. We finally do it on F1 22 as we go to 5 red lights to a title-deciding race, and Saudi Arabia lights out and we're underway. Leclerc gets a good start and does come across to try and squeeze us. We're going to combat him with a bit of battery into turn one, and we're going to be neck and neck practically on the exit of turn two, trying to find the traction, but the Mercedes just manages to get the advantage into the next left-hander, almost brushing tyres as we're dueling for the race lead. There was a bit of funny business in Sao Paulo, and now it's going to happen immediately here in Jeddah. We've made contact with Leclerc, we're facing the wall, and there's an almighty crash. Felipe Drugovich is out. We've been handed a 5-place penalty for that collision. Tsunoda's out. Verstappen's out. Oh, heavens. In a matter of moments, we've gone from trying to get the lead to down to P12. There's so much carbon fibre and debris around us, and we've got rear wing damage. So, maybe the race win is now out of the question today, and it's going to be all about recovery drive with an early pit stop. This will have to be, because we've got front wing damage, but that rear wing damage, that's something we can't change in the pit stop. And if that is the level of grip that we're going to have for the rest of this race, this really will be a monumental battle to get up into P7 minimum to get this championship. This is a replay then of what happened. Leclerc got a bit of oversteer just there. That invited me in, and then it's the most awkward bit of contact. You know, in Brazil, it was some funny business. I feel Leclerc turned into me. This wasn't really even Leclerc's fault, to be honest. I can't blame him for that. That is just very awkward physics and contact model with the tyre to tyre. My tyre grazed his and just spun us. I did really well to keep it out the wall and not lose our whole front wing, but it didn't matter in the end because the way Jeddah is set up, all these cars are so close together, and you can see it's just a concertina effect and a domino effect of, you know, Drugovich, Verstappen, Tsunoda all hitting me as my car is in the path directly of the racing line. So some major losers, Verstappen, Drugovich and Tsunoda in that. Some major winners of Ocon, I think that was, ghosting through a couple of cars, and of course Leclerc, who's in P1 now. We've got a safety car. A couple of us are in, all for, you know, varying degrees of damage that need to be looked at. So we come in, strap on a set of hard tyres, or we will strap on a set of hard tyres. First of all, we have to serve a 5-second penalty for the collision that we caused, even though, I mean, I don't know what more I could have done to avoid the collision. It wasn't exactly my fault that I was side on in the racing line, but we'll take it. Doesn't really matter. We're under safety car, so it's going to be all kind of, you know, sucked up with the safety car period. So we're now onto a set of hard tyres that, well, we're going to have to take to the end of this race now. We're going to take these hards 23 laps. We've got a new front wing, but one thing we don't have is a new rear wing, and that rear wing is still causing me issues. I feel like maybe a little bit of this is the tyre temperatures, to be honest. If I really deep it, I think that's more the hard tyres being that cold, plus a little bit of oversteer from the rear wing. I think the same thing with the spin we had just before we came in. I think that was more my rear tyres. It must have been absolutely cooked, because we have actually had rear wing damage before in this career mode series, and yes, you do get a bit of oversteer, especially at high speed. It can be quite dangerous, but at lower speed it's not too bad, and as long as you don't try and move the car about too erratically from side to side, you should be actually pretty okay. So I'm not saying we're going to have the same sort of pace we would have had without front wing rear wing damage, but it's not going to be horrendous. So we've just got to, you know, as we have done this entire season, just knuckle down and believe that we can get back up to a position we need for the Drivers' Championship, which is P7, of course. So here we go then. Here's the challenge. We're down in last place, which is now P19 in this race, and we've got to get up to P7 to try and secure this Drivers' Championship. Oh, and we've got rear wing damage. So game on as we overtake Piastri straight away. A lot of cars bunching up into turn 2, and we get around the outside of Magnussen. So just being opportunistic when cars are slowing each other up. You've got Lando Norris, who's going to slow up with Fernando Alonso, or Ricardo, sorry, as the two former McLaren teammates now battle in two different teams now. Red Bull versus Renault. We remain in P17 because in Sector 1, that is where you're going to find I'm slowest. Like, I just can't have that same supreme confidence to chuck the car one way or the other. But Sectors 2 and 3, as you can see in the top right, I'm actually still pretty damn good, because at those speeds, the rear wing really isn't that bad and that sensitive, and there's not too much high, high switch change of direction. So we've actually still got pretty okay speed there. Just Sector 1 where we're going to have a bit of pain every time as we now look to make a move onto lap 5 on Lando Norris. Nearly squeezed into the wall by our fellow Brit, but we just kept our foot in and just trusted eventually he would give us a little bit of room, and we're now up into P16, but so far away up the road is Leclerc in P1, Bottas second place, Schumacher now up to third, chasing Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin P4. Ocon elevated to P5 as he ghosted through a few cars. Vettel P6 then with Hulkenberg and that Audi sandwich in 7th, and then 8th is Carlos Sainz. Albon in P9, and the rounding out the top 10 is Sergio Perez. So like Sao Paulo, we've ended up with a very topsy-turvy, all change top 10 that we're not familiar with due to some incidents, basically. And looking to capitalize on that will be, the likes of myself, because there are definitely some slower cars that have been slower all season, and we've been able to, get past pretty relatively easy ahead of us, so we should be helped out with that. And also remember, we've already made our pit stop for the race. We are trying to take these hards all the way to the end. And remember, we know it can be done because we had to try and do this literally last season because we got a puncher on the first lap. Remember, just at the corner we just passed here, as we're now looking to try and make a move on Ricciardo, but he places his car really well on the middle of the circuit. It really made it awkward for me. I wasn't confident going down the inside, not knowing the brake performance and the rear end stability, and on the outside, well, there's just not enough room. But there's a lot of fighting going on ahead. Alonso, I think Russell just got past the Andretti, so Russell's also recovering because he also got some damage off that kerfuffle between us and everyone else on lap 1. So Tsunoda may be out of this race, but Russell also did face some damage there. So I don't know, if we can get Russell, maybe we can limit the damage at least maybe in this race versus Mercedes and Constructors. But at the moment, I'm not thinking about the Constructors fight. I just want to think about the Drivers' Championship. We'll worry about what we have to do in Abu Dhabi, when we get to that race. So right now, just looking to finally try and get past Ricciardo, but it's just proving really difficult. Ricciardo's actually getting now DRS off Alonso, and it's helping him out to no end. And I just don't have that outright pace at the moment because it's not even the rear wing. It's actually more the fact we're on the hard tyres and Ricciardo is on mediums, and that's just, the hard tyres, it takes like a good 5 laps for them to really rubber in. And eventually we'll actually get the move done in a very unorthodox place on Ricciardo with a DRS zone in Sector 2, but Ricciardo slows up quite a fair bit mid-apex, but yeah, it may be difficult. Lawson on soft tyre, like these cars are going to be actually quite difficult to get on these hards because they do have the pace advantage right now, let alone the slight bit of oversteer we'll be facing every corner with the rear wing damage. But yeah, we have done this before. We have done a whole race pretty much on hards last season, so I know it's possible, and technically we have an advantage because we've already done that pit stop. So everyone else who's not pit, they have to pit and lose like 20 seconds to us. So that will come back to us, but right now we are struggling a little bit just for grip, because as we tried to maybe have a look at Lawson, who went wide into turn 1, we actually ended up oversteering enough where Ricciardo had a little snap at us. So we need to keep our wits about us, but eventually Lawson just doesn't have that much speed because lap 8, those softs are definitely probably going to be feeling it now. So I'll be surprised if he doesn't come in yet. What did I say? So those softs are now done and he's coming in, so no wonder we could dive bomb him from so far back. But in terms of our pace, we're not setting any green sectors as we tried to overtake Alonso. We almost run into the back of Gasly because these 4 cars ahead of us are having some ding-dong scrap. There's side-by-sides going on, and that's helping us, to be honest, reel in P7 because they're slowing each other up. We finished the move off on Alonso, but this entire time, our best lap time is woeful right now. We're not really even that quick, but we're actually being helped out by all these guys still on softs, still on mediums. They're scrapping away for their own respective races. As you can see here, Gasly down the inside of Perez, and that just helps me. Like, this fight here helps me because now I can try and get Perez and Gasly 2 for 1 as he comes in anyway, though, along with 2 other cars. And so we're all of a sudden up to P7 already on lap 10. And remember, again, we're not making a pit stop, so we keep on going. Russell, I think he might pit again. Sainz, the rest of them, they're definitely all pitting because none of them pit under the safety car. So lap 11, P7, now in clean air. I am actually starting to set some green sectors as we just get used to the new level of grip on the rear end. But this is going really well for us. The pit stop under a safety car early on at Saudi Arabia, you know, from last season to this season, I think you can conclude is actually really overpowered. We talked about gambling a lot of the times on strategy. This wasn't a gamble that I wanted to make, but it's one we've been forced into, and it might work out for us, because now Leclerc, 3 laps later, comes out for his first pit stop on a new set of hard tyres, and we're now within 1 second of him up to 3rd place. And remember, those hards are going to take at least 1 lap to heat up, and then a couple of more to even rubber in. So we're not too quick in Sector 1. You can see Leclerc's pulling away from us in this sector, but also at the same time, we're now reeling him in just at the end of it because our tyres are up to temperature. They've got the grip. He will be struggling for the remainder of this lap. So if we push hard enough, somehow, funny enough, we could actually overtake Leclerc and then try, I don't know, well, try our best to hold him up, basically. I think is the only strategy here today. But if we can take these tards to the end, we're in a legitimate P3 at the moment, and it could be one more position because Russell will have to pit again because he went on to mediums for some odd reason. So Mercedes getting it a little bit wrong on the strategy for Russell with his pit stop under that safety car. But Leclerc, he didn't pit under it. He just pit now, and he is still under half a second now to us as we gain time, as we have been doing in Sector 2 and Sector 3, and we could even go for a move here. We're on the outside of Leclerc. He defends the inside line, but we're going to try and get the traction down and then plant the power with the battery as well. Leclerc pulls alongside. It's a drag race now towards turn 1. It's going to be a bit frosty maybe into the first corner. We squeeze him a bit, go back to the racing line. We're on the inside. I'm desperately trying to find the grip to just squeeze him out like that. And there we go. We're ahead of Leclerc. And now the thing is, in Sector 1, if we were behind him, that would have been a problem because then he can just pull away. But because he's behind us, I can drive to whatever pace I want in Sector 1, be comfortable that we're not going to spin out the car or whatever, and we can control the pace in Sector 1, knowing that we're pretty equalised on pace in Sector 2 and Sector 3. Just Sector 1. As soon as Leclerc gets ahead of me in Sector 1, that's going to be a problem. So we're just going to have to try and defend him over and over again, like we are right now, lap 16 there. He tried to go on the inside. We even went a little bit deep. But Leclerc himself didn't take that corner as well as he should have. Maybe getting a little bit flustered with the pressure of trying to desperately get into first place to do anything in this championship. Meanwhile, there was some good battling going on behind us. This was Sebastian Vettel showing that he's still got it. He may have been quiet a lot this season ever since that race win, but he's just done a double overtake on Ocon and Schumacher in the Audi. A nice little battle with Ocon action. He actually gets it on the inside there. Great commitment from the reigning champion, remember, and he's up into P3, so kind of nice actually that Vettel's there in the top 3 here. The reigning champ, you know, maybe the soon-to-be champion here in first place, but I won't speak too soon. Let's not get ahead of ourselves because we still got a whole race to go, and Leclerc just overtook us. But to be honest, I kind of almost let him through on purpose by not deploying ERS, because I know I can come back at him with the DRS, kind of almost like Verstappen and Leclerc did in real life in Saudi Arabia last year, you know, playing a game on purpose of kind of cat and mouse with the DRS, knowing that it's so overpowered just to get you back ahead. So I'm fine being behind Leclerc, going on to a new lap. As long as we get into first place by the exit of turn 1, that's fine. Sector 1, though, I have to be in first to try and hold him up, because if he gets in that clean air, I'm very afraid he may just plant the power and just walk off in the distance in Sector 1 and break the DRS toe. And Leclerc's really trying his hardest at the moment to do just that, to try and get into first place before this sequence of corners, because it's quite literally here where the rear wing damage is causing me the most issues. You can see a little bit of oversteer there, more oversteer, and a huge catch. Oh my word, that could have been race ending. Mate, no two ways about it. That could have been race ending if I didn't catch that, because we were going so quick. That could have been straight into the wall on the right-hand side. And now Leclerc is ahead once again through the banked corner. He had the advantage on the inside. We're trying our best to keep it side by side. A little bit of tyre banging, and that gave me a bit of PTSD, to be honest, from lap 1. But thankfully, no spinning this time on his tyre. And we're going to come back at him now with the DRS race in Sector 2. We're flying past him with a bit of battery, so you can see what I mean. Sector 1 is the problem, and Sector 2 and 3, we're still very much as quick, if not quicker than him. So it is just about trying to defend this into turn 1. Leclerc is getting desperate as he locks up, trying to go around the outside. So that desperation is showing now. Leclerc just wants to try anything to get the race win. I don't know what his plan would be after that. Maybe trying to back us up into the cars ahead, because to be honest, there's now a train forming down to P7. Maybe it could even be down to P9, because Russell and Stroll are also fighting but catching those that train. But Lance Stroll, sign of the times, manages to stay ahead of the Mercedes car. But maybe that's Leclerc's plan, trying to overtake me and then back me up into the cars to push me down the order, because obviously remember, as we get on through to the last 5 laps, my tyres will be much older. You know, we're talking 10 laps older than most of the cars around us, so that can only be Leclerc's single plan today. But we're doing so well to defend every time into turn 1. We're going to block him off on the inside here, and now Schumacher comes through. He's trying to get P2 and undo Leclerc's only plan today. Schumacher doesn't quite match it, but he's having a good go. And now there is a train for the entire top 7 from myself down to Carlos Sainz there. And we've got 6 laps to go. And as we go on through this race, my pace is slowing up. Leclerc on the inside just powers past us because I don't have the turn in through the banking or the traction, but we're using all the battery to try and desperately poke it back down the inside. And Vettel spun! Oh! Vettel spun behind us. There's a collision between him and Valtteri Bottas, and there's a second safety car. A late one here today, and it's caused by Sebastian Vettel. And that may just be our saviour today and allow us to win this race. Vettel trying to attack Schumacher, and he gets it all wrong. He got on the power way too early. I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to slip it down the inside of Schumacher there, and he's caused a crash that's taken out Russell. So our old pal, our old friend Sebastian Vettel may have just done us a favour by spinning there in the championship terms, because now Russell's out, Tsunoda was already out, so quite literally it's just myself and Leclerc. So Vettel inadvertently may just have helped our team out in the constructors fight, and also the safety car coming out because of his spin has helped me out in the strategy, because we're going to come in under this second safety car and strap on a brand spanking new set of medium tyres. And look at this, we're going to come out only in P3. We have absolutely finessed this. I don't know where that gap came from. I suspect the collision and the kind of, train of ghosting cars where Vettel span maybe held up everyone. And it's meant that I've come out in P3 on brand new mediums. Leclerc, Schumacher on worn hards. And these new mediums are going to completely out-negate any sort of oversteer and slow pace I have from the rear wing. So quite nicely, going on to the last 4 laps of this race, trying to win the Drivers' Championship by getting a race win has come back into play and is right in our hands, because all we've got to do is try and get ahead of Schumacher immediately and then hope that Leclerc doesn't pull away too much in Sector 1. And then in Sector 2 and 3, we just use the medium tyres to good effect and try and gain and then overtake him eventually, I hope. So here we go, onto the race restart, onto lap 22, right up behind Schumacher, a little bit alongside him actually, and now we're going to get going again. It's green flag for the race once more, and can we get to the inside of Schumacher? It's going to be close, it's very tight, but it's a great dive down the inside, and the medium tyre, fresh mediums, just pays us so many dividends. Like, the grip there was unbelievable compared to Schumacher. Look at that, Leclerc wobbles a little bit, but equally look at how much pace he's gaining. He's already gained 2 tenths there through those 2 corners. He's gained 3 tenths now, so yeah, almost 3 to 4 tenths by the end of Sector 1. Leclerc gains in Sector 1 alone, but then Sector 2, purple. So that's the big contrast here of that rear wing damage. It's hurting us quite a lot in Sector 1, but then Sector 2 and 3, we are flying and we are gunning for Leclerc because, my God, after the race we've had, even more so, I want to round out this championship win with a 7th win of the season for lucky number 7, my race number. Here we go. Can we get Leclerc? We fake to left, go to the right, and surely with the medium tyres, we're going to have the overwhelming grip to just out-traction Leclerc off the right-hander. We do. Plenty of battery usage. We cut to the inside to block off the racing line, and we are into first place once again of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. But the fighting's maybe not over yet. DRS will be activated on lap 24, but these two are just within 1 second that they've got enough slipstream naturally to maybe have a go at me. Leclerc on the left, Schumacher on the right. It's 3 wide going into the final corner. We're in the middle of it and we just managed to place the car correctly to get the best exit. Schumacher went a bit too deep and we remain in first, and actually in the end of it, Schumacher actually maybe got a better exit, ironically, from going wide, because he got on the power earlier then, I guess, on the cutback, and is actually now ahead and trying to get second place away from Leclerc. The two of them now are side by side, and that is going to be music to my ears, because these two fighting is just going to give me so much more breathing room. I mean, within 1 corner of this sector, I've already gained over a second there. I'm now 1.6 ahead, as Schumacher does overtake Leclerc for second place. Leclerc will come back at him onto the last lap of the Grand Prix to try and get second place, but we are now pulling away and just remaining about 1.5 seconds ahead. These two will squabble even more, so he might even grow this gap to 2 seconds even on towards the last couple of sectors. But what a race this has been. We were in second place on the starting grid. We got crashed into and spun round. Massive hit on the rear end, rear wing damage. We came back to P7, even higher than that. Then tried to slow down Leclerc and keep P1. Then made what has been a characteristic bold call on the strategy to pit under a safety car to get onto mediums, and right now it's looking pretty good, and it's looking pretty good for some other drivers out there. Hulkenberg P4, Lando Norris P5, Perez, Gasly, Ricciardo. There's a lot of drivers actually having a really great race this episode for their respective teams, but this fight right here, Schumacher ahead of Leclerc, is going to completely solidify this for me, because Schumacher is nowhere near me. He's gaining, he is actually gaining quite rapidly here in that very quick Ferrari in clean air, but it is futile, because we've only got 1 more corner to go to come through for our 7th victory of the season to match our number 7 on the car. It's taken 5 seasons and 85 episodes, but for the first time in this game, we crossed the line and we're going to win a Drivers' World Championship in F1 22 My Team Career Mode. It's about time. We've finally done it, and we've done it in style. Win number 7 for car number 7 in Season 5 to take our first championship.
Well, it's certainly been an incredible year for Formula 1, and our drivers have all pushed themselves this season, making it one of the most compelling years of racing in history. There can only be one champion, however, and here they are now, our new Formula 1 World Drivers' Champion. Not just victory today then, but the championship as well. What a spectacular season they've had. Congratulations to the whole team. What do you think it was today, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition?
I really feel the track layout combined with the track temperatures we saw today suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
The faces on our top 3 look so incredibly happy as they make their way up to the podium. A much-deserved victory and a brilliant performance from them all.
It's never a straightforward race, is it? It's never a straightforward race when it's been a title decider, whether it's been in a season finale or like in this season, it's the penultimate round of the season, and we have decided the title today in some fashion. We won this race even carrying that rear wing damage since lap 1. You know, at the end, the tyre advantage was the big factor. That overrided any sort of oversteer we're having. And we've got win number 7. I can't believe it. 7 wins in the season when we've only been used to getting, like, you know, like, what, 3 out of max? There's been a couple of times where we've been in the championship fight with only 2 wins because it's been that insanely competitive. But this season, it's been just as competitive, but I think we've just taken it to a new level in terms of that consistency we've had and the strategy calls we've been making throughout the season, and just the inevitability, I think, that we just wanted to have this season, and we've done it. We've finally won a Drivers' Championship, but there is still work to do this season because the Constructors' Championship hangs in the balance. We got a load of points over Mercedes by getting that win and Leclerc getting 3rd place, so now there are only 4 points in it between ourselves at Lotus, AAR, F1 and Mercedes. So it goes down to the wire in Abu Dhabi, myself and Tsunoda versus Leclerc and Russell. But for now, we will enjoy this Drivers' Championship, and what a way to win it in terms of the season we've had, to be honest, especially after all the highs and lows. You know, with season 2 matching Hamilton on points and losing it because of win count backs. Season 3, Sebastian Vettel taking this grid by storm, reinvigorated. Season 4, having a season of torrid luck and reliability, getting us out the championship. And finally, this season, we got it over the line and we've done it. Guys, if you have enjoyed this race and this season building up to this championship win, then hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and I'll catch you guys next time. There's still a Constructors' Championship to win, so it's still full on for Abu Dhabi. Till then, goodbye.